Thinking about Finnish, Suomi, metal, so moi and welcome. Let's go back a few years to 2007 on aboard an airplane from Cleveland, where I'm from, to Chicago. Our connecting flight to go to Helsinki. 8 hours sitting in Chicago airport for our connecting flight, wondering we could have just drove here quicker, but whatever. Finally loaded onto Scandinavian Airlines. We then embark on our way to Stockholm, where our next connecting flight is. And 8 hours later, we successfully, but unsuccessfully arrive, because then our luggage, for some reason, wasn't going to make it to then our flight on time, because we arrived really just in the nick of time before connecting flights. Talking to then a helpful Scandinavian Airlines employee, we were ensured that our luggage would be driven to then not Helsinki, where we were not flying to anymore, because we had to fly then to a city that I'm not aware of at this time, but was in the middle of the mountains, very remote. And then our luggage would be driven, as well as us, because the luggage was arriving on a different airplane. Then that would arrive in Helsinki, and then we would have a shuttle bus then that would drive us to Helsinki 2 or 3 hours away. And of course, I couldn't help but think, no way is our luggage getting there. We're probably going to get there, because I'm not going to get onto something that's going to not get me there. I think not getting there would be basically death. So, needless to say, arriving to Helsinki, and all things went well. Luggage is there, found my base, and onward we went to then we were supposed to play in Helsinki that night. So exhausted from a long day's travel, and kind of walking around Helsinki for a while, we arrive at the club. Now, I don't remember all the bands that played, but I do remember specifically Slugathor. So there is our first band of the day, Finnish metal. Because if you want to rig the internet, a great way to get views is Finnish metal. A few years ago, I did an interview with Antti Bowman from Demolik, band number 2. And just by sheer nature of putting Finnish metal in the title, it got a ton of views. And you could be one of those people to watch that video after this video is over. Link in the description. But that is one of the reasons why I'm telling this story, because there is an interesting fascination, from my perspective, for Finnish metal, and it's slightly different than other Scandinavian scenes in sound and just apparently intrigue. I mean, it's not to say that there's not, intrigue in all your insert Swedish band, Norwegian, and so on. But it just kind of, I don't know what the point I'm getting at. Maybe it's a league of its own. It's just interesting to wonder why the internet has such results that I've seen just by using language alone. So there you go. If you need a YouTube hack advice, well, there's one for you. Because let's get back to our story. Slugathor's on stage, and the singer is doused in reindeer's blood, old reindeer's blood. It was the most foul stench I've ever smelt in my life. Well, secondary foul stench I've ever smelled in my life. Maybe up to that point, the first foul stench was a pit of roadkill death in outside Pittsburgh. But this was up there, and I was not alone in that thought, because the whole stage then had a radius around to distance themselves from the stage as Slugathor played. And I don't know how they did, because then as I got closer to the stage afterward, we played after Slugathor, a little bit of remnants of the reindeer blood was on the microphone. And I was the bass player, so I wasn't really near the microphone. And man, you just ready wanted to freaking vomit from that alone. We played with the Swedish band Namanon, and I do think they had the same reaction, or at least the vocalist Dan, forgot. It's been a while. So it was disgusting. So anyway, had some good times in Finland, because that was Helsinki. Went to Pori, and I forgot the names of the other cities. Lahti, and had a cool shuttle then over to Sweden across then the Baltic Sea, which is rather cold. And so that's my Finnish story anyway, to tie this in and not just have a top 10 Finnish metal bands list. But getting back to that intrigue of, the internet and stuff, am I right? Like, you clicked on this video, you're watching 5 minutes up to 6 minutes in, like, apparently you are intrigued by Finnish metal. So there's many ways that can kind of go. I'm more versed in, I guess, some of the more extreme stuff, more underground stuff. So, I mentioned Demolich, Archgoat. There's, I remember on that tour, there was a band, they doubt they're probably still together, Neutron Hammer. And then, of course, like, you can get into, like, the big and obvious stuff, your Children of Bodom, your Korpiklani. So that's kind of question of the day. What is your top Finnish bands that you like? Because I could keep going on a list that I'm not entirely going to do, because I want to propose it to you, because, there could be that typewriter tough guy that's like, you missed this, you missed that. In fact, there is that typewriter tough guy, because I've already done Finnish videos, and it's just like, well, it was a top 10, so, there was far more than 10. So I'll let the audience do the speaking, because now I've introduced the idea. So hey, another band though to remember is Grave Violator. They were on Reaper Metal Productions, and you should check it out, because I doubt you have. Back to the Cult was the album, and that is another Finnish metal band, a far more underground one than the ones that I mentioned. So check them out. And while you're there at reapermetalproductions.bandcamp.com, you should listen to all the other hours, years worth of music, but then podcast episodes by Hellcast. And then there's this one band in particular, several bands, but Crucified Mortals, which is my band, so you should definitely check that out. If you know about it, but yet you haven't downloaded or bought an LP or a CD, well then, now this is your reminder. But there's also the Spawn of Satan, and then there's also the Nunslaughter Evil Hellbangers released that I remastered and recorded back in the day. So those are some highlights then, if you want to kind of check out the stuff that I specifically played on and produced. So there's your reminder, and when you go over there, I will talk to you next time.